In this video, I'm going to demonstrate and show you how to use the interview builder portion of SalesScripter. And to help you to quickly understand really what this tool is and how to use it, I'm going to share with you a quick story. And the story is really where this tool comes from. And that is that the first company that I started, I hired work-at-home cold callers. And this was a very challenging position to fill because you really needed a unique individual that would be open to making cold calls and dealing with the rejection and able to work from home from a staying productive standpoint, basically not needing to make money, but they're not going to make a ton of money. So there was a really tight window of a particular type of individual that I needed to hire. And what I experienced was that I would interview people, and based on the conversation and just some improvised questions, I would hire someone that I felt was a good fit and was going to do a good job. And what I experienced was a decent level of turnover, where sometimes people would work for me for a day or 2 days or a couple days and then quit. And that was a big challenge for me because I would invest so much time getting them set up and training them. So it was a key strategic thing for me to figure out a way to find people that would work for longer than a couple days. And so what I did was I started to look at why someone quit or why someone would maybe turned out to not be a good fit. And I realized that there were certain characteristics that they maybe had. For example, maybe they needed to make more money than the job paid, or maybe they didn't have the proper work at home environment from an equipment or workspace standpoint, or maybe they didn't have the right personality to deal with cold calling and rejection. So I started to realize that there were these characteristics that I was missing, that if I identified that someone either had the right characteristic or did not have the right characteristic, I could have either not hired the people that flaked or maybe hired people that I passed on, and maybe that could improve my level of turnover, meaning I could improve my odds of hiring people that would stay longer. And I started to experience and learn that asking good questions is the key to finding out if someone has the right or wrong characteristics, and that can improve my ability to hire the best people. So that's where all this comes from. And this tool, Interview Builder, basically is a tool that helps you to organize those thoughts in terms of ideal characteristics and then ideal questions. And we've done a lot of the work for you to help you to go through that process as easily as possible, and that's what you'll find here in the Interview Builder. So the first step is to create a question list. So I'm just going to go through this real quickly. So let's just say that we're hiring an outside sales exec. You're going to basically go through these steps here, and the first step is to identify the requirements. So those are the ideal characteristics of what you might look for in the person that's going to fit best. And we've organized a whole pre-filled set of characteristics organized into categories of, what are you looking for in terms of their personality, what type of skills are you looking for, what are some financial requirements or characteristics or attributes that you're looking for, education and experience. And if I just click on one of these drop downs, you'll see we've brainstormed a whole list. So this not only can help you to just think of what's already at the top of your mind, but we might help you to think of things that you might like in somebody that you didn't never really thought of. So we want someone that has a strong work ethic, that they're motivated. Since this is an outside salesperson, maybe we want them to be able to work independently. And so I could keep going, but I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly. So we want someone with sales experience and computer skills. Those are some of the skills requirements. Maybe we want them to have at least a bachelor's degree. So you could see here, you could go through these different drop downs and pull different characteristics. Now I'm going to move on just to demonstrate the tool with you and not have this video go on too long, but you could continue to drag and drop more. Basically, you're going to pull the characteristics or the requirements from our pre-filled lists and drag them over to here to what you've selected. And if you hit next, then I'm advancing to the second stage, which is, this is that stage where, okay, once we know what type of person we're looking for in terms of each requirement, then we need to think of a question to ask for each requirement. Well, guess what? We've done a first attempt at brainstorming questions for each requirement that we've provided you. Now you'll see here, this list here, these are all those requirements that I selected, and what we've done is for each one that you select, we've already written out a few questions for each. So we want to find someone that has a strong work ethic. Well, you could probably think of a way to ask someone that, but we've already done the work of a few different ways that you might try to ask someone to see how they measure up on that requirement. So let me just see here. There's a few different ways to go about it, and I'm going to grab this one here, which is tell me about your level of work ethic. And you'll notice here that we've gotten a little bit more creative instead of just saying, do you have a strong work ethic? Because if you ask someone, do you have a strong work ethic, they'll just say yes. And then you move on and you say, well, they have a strong work ethic. This is a little bit more open-ended or gets them talking, so you get more information from the applicant instead of them just saying yes or no. Motivated. What motivates you? So instead of just saying, are you motivated, what motivates you? Or can you tell me about a time when you were extremely motivated to accomplish something? So again, getting more information from the applicant. Works independently. If you had a choice, would you prefer a job where you worked independently or one where you worked more on a team? Computer skills. Tell me about your level of experience using computers. So as you can see, I'm going to move on. Now, one thing I want to point out is that we create this list. It's not to say those are the perfect questions for that requirement, and you might have a different way of wanting to get at that detail. You can always add a custom question. Let's say that you think a better way to ask this is, how many years have you used computers? And if I hit enter, that then becomes a new block here that I can drag over here. So again, we give you some that might work for you, but if you want to add your own, you can easily just add it there. And you'll notice there's an X mark here, and I'm just going to hit that, and so you can delete that if you don't want that to be there. And so I'm going to move on. We only have a few questions here. Ideally, you'd have more because, of course, you'd want to ask an applicant more, but I just want to get through this process. And so the next step is to ask some intro questions. So all those questions we came up with are really aligned with the requirements that we're looking for, but we also want to help you with opening and starting your interview, and those are your intro questions. So we can just assume that you're an experienced interviewer and you know how to start an interview, but we've given you some questions to think about. So how's your day going so far? Did you find us okay? What did you find out about us? Why are you currently looking for an opportunity? So I'm just going to grab one intro question. Then we're also going to take you through a step to try to organize how do you want to close the interview. And so here's some questions that you can ask at that point. What questions do you have for me? What other options are you considering? How quick are you looking to move? So a few closing questions there. Now the last step is an edit stage. So you'll see here what we have here is we have an outline of the desired requirements that we selected, and then we have the intro questions and the different categories of requirements, so the questions for each category, and then the closing section. So what this basically is this is an area for you to reorganize or fine-tune your list of questions. Maybe you grab too many questions, so you could go through and delete any questions. You can move questions around. You can add more questions at this point. Maybe you went through the process, but you feel like there's more questions that you need to add. You can always add more questions. And at this point, you can save this as a list, or you can download this. So you can certainly click download, and this whole list will be downloaded to Microsoft Word, and you'll have here a document form of what we just looked at. So you have your desired requirements, and you have all your questions to ask. And so you could certainly print this out and have it in front of you when you're interviewing somebody. But what we've also done is we've tied all this information that you've organized, and we also display this in other areas of the SalesScripter tool. And one area that we display these questions is in a tool called Applicant Qualifier. This basically displays all of those different categories that we might interview someone, and in each category are those questions that we selected. So you can see here that this is a tool that you could have up in front of you when you're interviewing an applicant, and you're displayed each question that you might ask and an area where you can enter their answer. Or maybe they give you an answer and you don't necessarily need to enter it, but you know it's just a horrible answer and it's going to disqualify them, you can just log that their answer as in a numeric value. So -3 would be a horrible answer, +3 is a great answer. So you might just go through and log that they gave you nothing but bad answers, and that way you can know from a number standpoint that this is not a good applicant, instead of having to write out the notes of how bad their answer was. So a couple different ways to go about entering information, but the key thing here is that you can use the interview builder to organize your thoughts and figure out the optimum list of questions to ask someone for each position that you're looking to fill, and that question list ideally should be different. If you're looking to hire someone for a manual labor type of job, and then you also need someone that's more of a behind the desk type of analytical type of person, those are different requirements, different sets of questions. And then once you organize your questions and organize your thoughts, that is then all those questions are displayed in this tool here, where you then can, and that's why it's called applicant qualifier, where you can qualify your applicants, which that in theory that's what you do when you interview an applicant, is you're qualifying them. How qualified is this person for the job? And the person that's most qualified is then the person that you hire. So this is a tool that takes your optimum list of questions, displays them into different categories, so you don't necessarily need to go through this straight from one question to the other. Maybe you want to jump ahead to experience in the beginning of the interview, or maybe you want to spend more time really focus on their personality. And so this is a place where you can enter their answers, score them, and then get to a place where you're identifying which applicant is best, and then you can hire the best applicant instead of just hiring someone who you had a good conversation with, or that you feel like they might be the best person. So that's a quick overview of using the interview builder. Hope that helps. Look for other videos that go into more detail on SalesScripter and the staffing solutions.